what would you do? What would you do in the days that we're living in right now? That's a question I'm going to ask my next guest, because in this country, I would tell you that one of the best known names of an organization that is doing phenomenal work is AARP. And I say that, not only do I get their cards, but because they touch every little corner of our country. And we're going to have a conversation about why they became partners with LULAC, and LULAC and they are doing some very important work, perhaps in your community. So I want to welcome right now Veronica Segovia Bedon. She is the Senior Advisor for AARP's Multicultural Leadership. She got up early. She, as I do, she fixed her, her look and everything. And there she is, smiling all. Veronica, buenos dias. How are you?
Buenos dias. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you. Thank you very much for what you do at this wonderful organization. I want to point out that AARP is a nonpartisan organization. So our conversation here has nothing to do with whatever is going on in the political space. Serving people is really about el corazón. It comes from the heart. And when COVID-19 hit, Veronica, I felt like a lot of us not only were going through this pain, some more than others, but some of us were disoriented, like, what do we do now? We didn't know what to do. And your organization used that opportunity to become laser focused on how you could help us. How did that come about? Tell me about that.
Well, I appreciate so much the opportunity to talk about that with you, because this year has truly changed, the way we think about the term community engagement. That's something that we do it nationwide, and it's something that we feel blessed to work with innovative partners like LULAC to do that, to connect with the community through trusted organizations like LULAC. And so over the past 4 years, LULAC has really listened to us at AARP around where we are in terms of what we seek to achieve and connecting to your members and to the communities that you serve and that we serve. And so even though that continues to evolve this year or each year, this year was really challenging. And so we came together to really talk about how can we continue to reach people when we can't travel, there's so much uncertainty around events. So events like this one, rolling up our sleeves and getting together to do what we can to come into people's homes and connect with them virtually is an example of how we're working together. One of the ways that we did that in response to what happened, we had originally planned to be in Texas with you all at the LGBT Summit earlier this year, in New York for the Women's Conference earlier this year. And, Cindy and myself and Yvette Peña, who is the Vice President for the Hispanic Latino Audience Strategy at AARP, we hopped on the phone and we said, what can we do? What can we do now? And how can we, change our plan of action? And so we came together around the idea of ayuda en español, which you're familiar with, David. And what we were able to do is really focus on the fact that as individuals, families, and communities continue to confront this novel virus, we're reminded how much we need one another, how much we need our close friends, how much our families need us. And so as we continue to address the unprecedented situation, we saw a need to support family caregivers as the cornerstone of society. And so Ayuda en Español, the online resource center that LULAC set up, is a place where AARP has produced some fact sheets in response to coronavirus. We also work together on some direct mail pieces to reach folks in homes that do not have access to the internet. Those direct mail pieces include phone numbers to like a program that AARP has started called AARP La Voz Amiga, which is a number that folks can call to receive a call back. And these are really for friendly phone conversations to make social connections. So you can sign your loved one up to receive a call if you'd like them to receive that, or you can tell your loved one about it and they can sign themselves up.
And Veronica, you touched on, and we're going to take bite sizes here because I've got questions for you. One of the things that I notice about AARP's army of people is you guys are like so energetic. I mean, I've been at so many events where they are very proud to be associated with any campaign. I know this was not, on the agenda of items to speak of officially, but how do you locate these people who have such un cariño? They have such a love for service in their local communities.
Are you speaking to our volunteers, our staff? I'm guessing you're speaking to both, right? Because
Both.
we,
When they wear that AARP emblem, I mean, they're like, they're like shining there. They're very proud to be able to do that. And that's a very genuine thing that I've noticed. And you mentioned like Ayuda en Español and then Call de una Amiga. I mean, these are phenomenal programs that reach so deep into our community. So I'm asking you kind of a twofold question. Where does that innate love of community come from within your organization? And of course, as you innovate these programs, what are your targets and objectives? And that's kind of a corporate word, but really, what is the end goal?
So the end goal is to impact lives, right? That is the core of what we do. AARP was founded on principles related to social justice, access. I can talk a little bit more about that, but I would say that it's really in our DNA to be passionate about the community and want to impact lives. One of our values at AARP is humanity. It's one of the favorite ones for me. I go back and speak to it a lot when we talk about thinking about the person and how we're impacting that person's life in community. And so there's a lot of work that our Office of Volunteer Engagement does. Yvette Peña, who is the vice president for the work that I do and leads the strategy around connecting with communities, Latino communities nationwide, she often says heart work. Right. So it is hard work and we do roll up our sleeves, but we do it with our heart. And I would say that I'm so happy to hear you say that about AARP.
No, it does.
Because we do have a lot of work to do in communities that don't speak English as much, communities that speak Spanish. We have found that we have work to do in getting folks familiar with who AARP is and what we do. And so I appreciate the opportunity to talk about that with you.
No problem. We welcome you. Veronica Segovia Bedon is our guest. She is the senior advisor for AARP Multicultural Leadership, a long title, but what it really means is she got up early to be with us today because the story of AARP is really the story of our community and heart work. I really, that catches my ear. Congratulations. And Yvette Peña también, we certainly appreciate her leadership. You mentioned something a moment ago, and that was about caregiving. This is a very personal subject for many of us. I had the honor of helping my mom the last couple of 2 or 3 months of her life, almost full time. I was there with her. She lived a good life, but still, it's a very intensive process, and AARP did something very extraordinary. You developed a real focus around caregiving within the Latino community. Why was that?
So I think you touched on a point, right? You are a caregiver. I am a caregiver. 1 in 5 Latino adults is providing unpaid care to an adult with health issues or a disability. So it's what we do. We are caregivers. And at AARP has the resources and the ability to connect caregivers to information that we may not know is out there, right? We don't know what we don't know. Oftentimes we find ourselves in a situation where we're a caregiver as the result of an emergency. We go in with all of our heart, but with zero preparation, right? And so AARP is there to help with that preparation. We have prepare to care guides. So guides where a caregiver can sit down, a family can sit down and have a conversation around planning for the future, or if you find yourself in a situation now, what are the action steps that you can take now? And so that's something that we've partnered with LULAC to distribute. They're available in English and Spanish at aarp.org/prepare to care, but you can also find them on LULAC's Resource Center, on the Ayuda en Español Resource Center.
If we can, I want to get to the topic of the census. You two have been focusing quite a bit on that. So why is that an issue that you want to talk about?
Yes.
And we need to.
I appreciate the opportunity to do that. I came to the legislative summit when we were in person in February in DC to talk about the census, specifically important for caregivers as well. When we live in multi-generational homes, it's very important to remember to help make sure everyone is counted. The census is a count of everyone who lives in the United States. And it's AARP is working for an accurate count of every single person because that count impacts resources within a community, access to healthcare, access to education, access to services that people need at any age. And in order for AARP to be true to its mission and find the United States as a place where anyone can choose how they live as they age, this census count really impacts the choices that are in front of us to do that.
Veronica, I also want to touch briefly on the subject of LGBT intersectionality. I saw that and I wanted you to please define it so that all of us understand what it refers to and why it's important.
So someone actually, and it was at an event last year, someone actually pointed out to me a way to think about Latinx, the term Latinx, that I hadn't thought of in the past. And it was that thinking of that X as that intersection. Latinos sit at an intersection. I don't wake up every morning and I'm just a Latina. I wake up every morning in my skin that is indigenous, it is white. I'm a mom, I have sisters, I have, family history. So there's a lot that goes into who a person is and how they show up and how they exist in the world. And as Latinos, when we talk with I'm fortunate, I would say, that I work alongside my colleague, Nick Cordelai Corte. He is AARP's senior advisor and national LGBT liaison. So I actually work within a team that has resources dedicated to engaging the multicultural LGBTQ community. And what that allows us to do is host sessions like the one we're hosting today. At 3:00, there is a conversation that's part of the LULAC Virtual Summit around the issues specific to LGBT community. And this is a multi-generational conversation. So we're meeting at the intersection of different ages, but it also intersects with issues like healthcare, civil rights, and family caregiving.
So it's not a single faceted subject.
Absolutely.
The final point that I want to touch on, and I'm sorry that time does not permit us to go even deeper beyond that. We're speaking with Veronica Segovia Bedon. She is the AARP leadership team member on the multicultural market, which means people like us. So gracias for being here. It is financial resilience. Some of us think because we stash money at home or something, un poquito, that we're being resilient. But AARP as an organization says there's a lot more to it. Could you touch on a couple of key points there?
I'd love to touch on that. What you just mentioned about stashing away money. I'm not in a position to tell you what to do with your money, but I'm in a position where I am reading more and more, and AARP is putting together tools and resources so that people can have the information they need to make decisions, right? And so I think access to information and financial education is really important. And that's what I'm so excited to get to do at AARP, to connect with Latinos around that. Last night, actually, we sponsored the session on financial security, and we had one of our partners, Abby Zapote, speak. She's the executive director of Latinos for a Secure Retirement. And I'm so excited that I'm partnering with her this year to host Cafecito y Dinero webinars via Zoom. They're multi-generational conversations, and we're touching on things like savings and planning, but we're also talking about things like advanced directives and what kind of paperwork should we have lined up, especially in a pandemic where we actually don't know, the future or tomorrow is not necessarily promised, but when it comes, we want to be ready for that. We talk about insurance, we talk about fraud prevention. These are ways that you can protect the money that you do have. And so those are a couple of points, and I definitely would like to invite those who are with us today or who might listen to this later to check out the Latinos for Secure Retirement Cafecito y Dinero series that we're doing this year with them.
Well, Veronica, thank you so very much for taking time to join us this morning. I know your schedule is quite busy. We also want to thank Yvette Peña for her leadership with AARP and for being the organization that you are all across America and Puerto Rico. Thank you, and we wish you a wonderful day. Don't forget, join AARP later today in our live program. We're streaming all across this nation because this is the content that matters.